The story of the boy and the king, as narrated by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is among the most moving and inspirational accounts ever told. It embodies themes of faith, resilience, and the ultimate triumph of truth over tyranny. Passed down through generations, this timeless tale continues to offer profound lessons to all who hear it. In this story, we meet a young boy whose steadfast faith and courage challenge the oppression of a ruthless ruler, eventually making him a symbol of divine truth and unwavering bravery. Within a kingdom ruled by a cruel and arrogant king, there lived a boy gifted with intelligence and an insatiable curiosity. Eager to learn, he searched for wisdom wherever it could be found. His quest eventually led him to a devout monk who lived in seclusion on the edge of the realm. This monk, known for his deep piety and unshakable belief in the one true God, became the boy's secret teacher. Recognizing the boy's sincerity and potential, the monk took him under his care. He taught him about true faith, the essence of worshiping God alone, and the path of righteousness. The boy absorbed these teachings with remarkable eagerness, quickly grasping the virtues of patience, humility, and the inner strength that flows from unwavering belief. Day by day, the boy's faith grew stronger. He began to see the world through a new lens, recognizing the divine order in creation and understanding the value of living a righteous life. The relationship between the monk and the boy deepened into one of mentor and disciple, bound by respect and the pursuit of truth. Meanwhile, the king, who demanded his subjects worship him as a god, grew increasingly fearful of losing control. Obsessed with maintaining his authority, he filled his kingdom with spies and informers to root out any sign of defiance. It was not long before whispers of the monk's teachings reached the throne. The thought of a man spreading a faith that defied his decrees was intolerable to the tyrant. Enraged, he ordered his soldiers to hunt down the monk and silence him once and for all. Yet despite the danger, the boy's devotion never wavered. Risking his safety, he continued to seek his teacher in secret, slipping through hidden paths and dense forests to reach the monk's humble dwelling. His determination and courage only grew stronger, and sensing the peril that loomed ever closer, the monk deepened his guidance, preparing the boy for the trials ahead. Determined to pass on as much wisdom as possible, the monk intensified his teaching. The boy absorbed every lesson, his faith and knowledge deepening by the day. One afternoon, while on his way to visit the monk, the boy came across a terrifying scene. A ferocious beast had blocked the main path, striking fear into the hearts of the townspeople. The creature, with its sharp claws and piercing eyes, had tormented the villagers for days. None dared to pass until the boy stepped forward. Relying on his faith, the boy picked up a stone from the ground. Raising his hands in prayer, he called upon God for courage and strength. With calm resolve, he cast the stone at the beast. By the will of God, it struck with such force that the creature fell dead instantly. The path was cleared, and the villagers, who had witnessed the miracle, stood in awe of the boy's bravery. News of this extraordinary event spread quickly through the kingdom, eventually reaching the ears of the king. Intrigued yet suspicious, the tyrant summoned the boy to his court. The boy, fully aware of the danger but unshaken in faith, appeared before the ruler. The king studied him carefully, seeking the source of his strength. With stern authority, he demanded an explanation. The boy, calm and fearless, declared that his strength came not from himself, but from the one true God. The miracle, he explained, was a sign of divine intervention. Enraged by this defiance and refusal to renounce faith, the king ordered the boy to be bound and thrown into a dungeon. Shackled in chains and locked in darkness, the boy remained steadfast. He prayed for guidance, his unwavering faith illuminating his spirit even in the cold, silent cell. Days turned into weeks. The boy endured starvation, beatings, and harsh interrogations. Yet each attempt to break him failed. His prayers sustained him, and God's protection shielded him. Time and again he emerged unbroken, his resilience itself a miracle. The whispers of his endurance spread among the people. Stories of the boy's faith and God's power began to circulate, sowing doubt about the king's authority. The oppressed subjects saw in the boy a symbol of divine truth and courage, a beacon of hope against tyranny. The king, realizing his grip was weakening, grew more desperate. The boy's story was inspiring rebellion in hearts across the land, reaching even the most remote corners of the kingdom. No punishment could dim the light of his faith. Consumed by fury, the king resolved to destroy the boy once and for all. He devised punishments more brutal than before, determined to break the spirit of this child who dared to defy him. At last, the boy was brought again before the ruler. Standing tall in the lavish hall of the palace, chains still on his hands, the boy faced the king's blazing eyes. The ruler's rage was unrestrained. The final confrontation between the boy's unwavering faith and the king's oppressive might was about to unfold, one that would decide the destiny of the kingdom and its people. Yet the boy remained calm, his heart fortified by faith. The king, determined to crush his spirit through fear, devised a series of brutal punishments. First, the boy was tied to a stake in the center of the marketplace where all could see. The king's strongest soldiers were ordered to whip him mercilessly. A crowd gathered, their faces a mixture of horror and awe. With every lash that struck his back, the boy whispered prayers, never once crying out or begging for mercy. His silence spoke louder than any words, a testament to unshakable faith. The people watched in stunned silence, moved by his resilience. Murmurs began to spread through the crowd, admiration for the boy's strength, and questions about the faith that granted him such endurance. The king, seeing the shift in their hearts, grew furious. His plan to humiliate the boy was failing. Instead, the child was becoming a symbol of hope, a martyr in the eyes of his people. Enraged, the king ordered a more terrible test. The boy was cast into a deep pit filled with wild beasts. The crowd gasped as he was thrown inside, certain they were about to witness a gruesome end. The king watched eagerly, convinced that fear would finally overcome the boy. But instead of panic, the boy knelt and prayed. To the astonishment of all, the beasts circled him without attack, their ferocity subdued. One by one, they lay at his feet as though tamed by an unseen power. Gasps of disbelief rippled through the crowd, which quickly turned into whispers of faith. Many began to believe in the God who had protected the boy from such certain death. The king's anger boiled over. His attempts to shatter the boy's spirit had only amplified his influence. Desperate to end it once and for all, he conceived an even crueler plan. He ordered the boy to be bound to a great stone and cast into the sea. Surely, he thought, no god could save him from the depths. The soldiers obeyed, dragging the boy to the cliffside where a roaring sea crashed against the rocks below. A large crowd gathered once again, breathless with anticipation. The boy, calm as ever, prayed aloud, entrusting himself to God. The stone was pushed over the edge, plunging into the raging waters with the boy bound tightly to it. Silence fell over the people as moments stretched into eternity. Just when all seemed lost, a massive wave surged upward. By divine decree, the stone was lifted and the boy was carried to shore. His bindings fell away and he rose from the sea unharmed. The people erupted in awe. Witnessing yet another miracle, many proclaimed their belief in the one true God openly, no longer afraid of the king. The boy's unwavering faith had ignited theirs. From the shoreline, the king watched in horror. His power was slipping through his fingers. His people no longer feared him. Their hearts now turned toward the God of the boy whose faith had been proven time and again. Panicked, the king gathered his closest advisors in a secret meeting. His voice trembling with rage, he declared that a final plan must be devised, one that would put an end to the boy's influence forever. The king's advisors, sensing his desperation, proposed a public execution grand enough to erase all doubt. A massive arena was prepared, and the king commanded that nobles and commoners alike attend. The boy would be tied to a stake, and archers would execute him before the eyes of the entire kingdom. The king believed that such a spectacle would shatter the people's fascination with the child and restore his own fading authority. As the day approached, the boy remained calm, his faith unshaken. He accepted his fate with serenity, knowing his sacrifice could reveal the truth. On the appointed day, the arena overflowed with people. The air was heavy with anticipation. The boy was led into the center and bound to the stake. A hush fell across the crowd. Then, in a clear voice, the boy addressed them. He declared that his faith had carried him to this moment, and that he was ready to give his life if it meant that the truth of God would shine forth. Turning to the king, he gave his final instruction. If you wish to end my life, you must shoot the arrow while proclaiming, "In the name of the Lord of the boy." Desperate to see him dead, the king obeyed. He raised the bow, spoke the words aloud, and loosed the arrow. It struck the boy, and he fell. For a moment, silence gripped the arena. Then, as realization spread, the people gasped in awe. By invoking the name of the boy's Lord, the king himself had borne witness to the truth. The child had given his life, but in doing so, he had won the ultimate victory. Moved by his sacrifice, the crowd erupted in a unified cry, proclaiming their belief in the one true God. The king's power crumbled before his eyes. His authority, once enforced by fear, was undone by the faith of a boy. In death, the boy had accomplished what no force could prevent, the enlightenment and liberation of his people. His story lived on, retold through the generations, a beacon of courage and devotion. It stood as proof that tyranny cannot extinguish truth, and that even the smallest voice, when rooted in faith, can shake the foundations of a kingdom. The king, humiliated by his many failed attempts to silence the boy, grew more desperate than ever. Each trial, whether the lash, the dungeon, the beasts, the sea, or even fire, had only magnified the people's faith in God. His subjects no longer feared him. Instead, they drew strength from the boy's unshakable devotion. Determined to end it once and for all, the king ordered the boy to be tied once more in front of the people. Archers were summoned, and the execution was declared a final public spectacle. The king was certain that this time there would be no miraculous escape. As the crowd gathered, hearts heavy but eyes full of reverence, the boy remained calm. His voice rang out across the courtyard. "I accept my fate. But know this, my death will not be in vain. My sacrifice is a testimony to the one true God. If I fall today, let it strengthen your resolve to stand for what is right." Then, turning to the king, he gave his final instruction. "You cannot kill me unless you do so in the name of the Lord of the boy." Reluctantly, the king followed. He raised the bow, called out, "In the name of the Lord of the boy," and released the arrow. It struck its mark, and the boy fell. For a moment, silence covered the crowd like a shroud. Then a wave of realization swept through them. By uttering the boy's words, the king himself had acknowledged the very God he sought to deny. The people cried out as one, proclaiming their belief in the one true Lord. The king, stunned and powerless, watched as his authority crumbled. In seeking to destroy the boy, he had instead revealed the truth to all. His power dissolved and the people were liberated, not by rebellion but by faith. The boy's death was not a defeat, but a victory greater than life itself. His unwavering devotion, his courage in the face of tyranny, and his ultimate sacrifice became a beacon of inspiration for generations. The kingdom, once darkened by oppression, was transformed by the light of belief. To this day, the story of the boy and the king endures, a timeless reminder that truth cannot be silenced, that tyranny cannot extinguish faith, and that even the smallest voice, when rooted in conviction, can change the fate of a nation.